Or can you see? Yeah. Okay, one thing we have not had a chance to talk about yet is RSpec. So I'll just talk about that like real quick. One thing that happens a lot is people will come and they'll have questions, which is totally fine, and they're not exactly sure like why a test is not passing. They're like, I feel like my code should be working. I think it's right, and then they're sort of stuck. So if you look in this spec folder, RSpec is what's called a domain-specific language. It allows you to write tests that validate that some code does something, and then that thing you basically test, okay, did that code do what we expected? So if you look at the test, the whole point of RSpec is supposed to be very readable so that non-programmers can even read it. So you can look at exactly what our tests are and what the Ruby code is that it's running. So basically what we say is we set up some expectation. We say we expect standard out is like the thing, like the console. We expect the console to receive the puts method with this exact string. So if you have any other string being passed to puts, it's not going to work. So if for whatever reason, sometimes like, your string will be similar, or, maybe we're saying we expect puts to be called 3 times with parts of a string, and you call puts once with the whole string or whatever. We're very specific. And we're not necessarily specific because we want to be annoying. It's just there's no other way to do it in programming, right? There can only be one thing that we expect, and sometimes it's not worth your time to like maybe get it to be exactly what we have if you kind of like get the concept. But if you're ever frustrated and you're like, I want it to be green, I want my lights to pass, you can just always open up this file and actually see like what it is that we expect. So let's look at what the assignment says. All right, so we're going to practice building methods that use iteration and controlling their return values. Practice manipulating arrays. Okay, so we have Katz's Deli. It's going to be empty. Build a method that a new customer will use when entering the deli. The take a number method should accept 2 arguments, the array for the current line of people, and a string containing the name of the person wishing to join the line. The method should return the person's name along with their position in line. Remember that people like to count from 1, not from 0, like computers. Build the now serving method. Okay, so we have the take a number method. Okay, cool. So let's see what our tests are expecting. Deli counter line. There's nobody in line. Should say the line is empty. Okay. So it looks like we need a line method first. Build a line method that shows everyone their current place in the line. If there's nobody in line, it should say the line is currently empty. Okay. So there's also this idea in Ruby and in larger programming as well. We call it test-driven development. You write a test and you do the least that you can basically to make that test pass, even if that's not exactly like the best code you could ever write. So it says build the line method that shows everyone their current places in the line. If there's nobody in line, it should say the line is currently empty. So I'm going to make a method called line, and all it's going to do is say the line is currently empty. So I know that this is not really the intent of this method. It's not going to pass all the tests, but it should get me something. Right? I should be starting to pass tests, and as I run this, I'll see that maybe some of the tests are passing, and I need to be more specific. Okay, this didn't even work. So it says line, there is nobody in line, should say the line is empty. Interesting. Okay, so let's look at what this exact spec does. There's nobody in line. Okay, so it expects standard out to receive puts with the line is currently empty when they call line and they pass in Katz's Deli. Did I spell this wrong or something? Oh, are we not? Oh, I didn't see that we had the printout for our errors. Okay, cool. So now I can come up and I can say, okay, what happened in my actual test? And it's going to print out any Ruby errors that I got. So the errors that I get is it says wrong number of arguments, 1 for 0. So what that means is in the test, they called some method, right? They called the method line. They passed in some data. And in RSpec, they allow you to basically kind of define these variables this way. So they're saying Katz's Deli is basically an empty array. So they're going to call the line method. They're going to pass in Katz's Deli, which is basically a variable that is an empty array. And my method doesn't accept any arguments. So I can say some argument. Now I have 6 failures. So I passed the first test. So what's the next thing that's wrong? Okay, there are people in line. It should display the current line. So maybe that's not the best thing to attack next, because it sounds like these methods sort of like rely on each other. So we have now serving there are no people in line, should say the line is empty. We have take a number. So what do you guys? What's the next method that you guys attacked?
Now serving Katz's Deli.
Now serving Katz's Deli. And why did you do that one next?
Because I don't remember. But
Okay.
I think of the instructions. Like looking at learn was more confusing, but the instructions were more in order.
Okay, so this one says we should do take a number first. Anybody else do take a number first? Yeah?
Oh yeah. Well, that was the very first.
Okay.
Yeah, the order that it was take a number, now serving, and then.
On you RSpec, it says do line first. So learn says to take a number.
In RSpec, it checks that method first. Yeah, but the instructions tell you to do it a different order.
Okay, so I'm going to follow the instructions and learn and see what happens. So we got to build a method that a new customer will use when entering deli. Take a number message, so I have 2 arguments. Okay, so I'm going to have a method. Oops. Take a number. arg1 and arg2. Run this. And the array for the current line of people. Katz's Deli, and a string containing the name of the person wishing to join the line. Okay, so we have, we have current line of people and some person. Okay, and the method should return the person's name along with their position in line. So I'm going to look at the exact RSpec test to see exactly what they want to come back out. So take a number. Is that the method? Take a number. Should add a person to the line. So when we call take a number with Katz's Deli and Ada, we expect Katz's Deli to equal Ada. Interesting. So we're not testing the exact return value. So the measure should return the person's name along with their position in line.
RSpec expects like an exact string. So the string is like welcome, comma, then customer's name, UR, number and line.
Oh, here we go. So this is the exact string that we're expecting. Got it. Okay, so we have 2 tests, right? We have 2 expectations. We expect that standard out or the console is going to receive puts with this exact message, right? And then we have Katz's Deli, the array itself should be altered with Ada inside of it. So let's deal with the first part first. So we're going to have to put Ada into this string. So we're probably going to use some kind of string interpolation, and we're going to say the current person. We're going to get pass that in into the method, right? So we can see how they actually call the method. They take a number, they pass in Katz's Deli, and they pass in the string Ada, right? We want Ada to appear here. So when we have double quotes strings, which we haven't talked about yet, we have string interpolation, and Ruby allows us to take a variable and basically convert that variable into its value and then just throw it into a string. Another way to do this would be kind of like you would in JavaScript. And we could say kind of like add strings together. So we could add in the person and then add in the remaining line. I prefer string interpolation. JavaScript doesn't have it, which is super annoying. But this is how I would do it. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so I passed the first part of the test, right? But I did not pass. We expect Katz's Deli to be equal to Ada. So there's two things we have to do in this method, right? We have to add, oh, we need to call puts too.
We also hard-coded the line number where she's in.
Oh, thank you. All right, so now we have the current line, right? Current line. I'm going to add in Ada, and then I'm going to need to dynamically figure out where she is in line, right? So again, I can use string interpolation, and I can say current line. Use this like this Ruby find index method. Pass in the person, add 1.
But if you do just not count, it should be the last person in the array.
Dot count.
I also did dot length.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they always got to be at the end. I like that better. I think length is better. Length and count work slightly differently. Count is more for like counting the number of times something appears. So
is that what we could have used for the
So if we say current line dot length, right, that'll give us the number of people in line. She should be the last person in line. And that will give us, yeah, and so we won't even need to add 1. I like that. All right, so let's try this. Cool, so that passed a bunch of our tests. What do we have left? Okay, we have this line method. Let's finish this up. So it says there are people in line should display the current line. So we expect the line is currently 1 Logan, 2 Avi, 3 Spencer. And we got that by calling line with other deli. Other deli is basically like some line, right? So our line method should be able to take in, call it the current line, and then we can say if current line empty, we're going to print that out. If it's not empty, then we're going to print out the current line with their numbers. So we have to figure out how to build up this string. So what do people do to build up this string?
I did string interpolation, so I did puts. Well, wait, to build up that string?
Yeah.
Line's currently. Oh, I was looking at the wrong. One second.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm stuck on it now.
Okay.
I just iterate through the array,
Cool.
and then I just
Okay, that's I think what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say I'm going to use each with index.
Yeah.
So this is a cool method that basically will give you both the position that you're iterating through and the element itself. So it gives us element and index. So I could say, let's call this like to print just some empty string. And so we could say, okay, so we have, what is it, the element, we have the index, we have a dot. So we have the index and then a literal, what is that? We have the index and then a literal dot, right? And then we have the person's name. So each element, right, the index, and we need to build up some big string. So I can say to print plus equals, or you can do like shovel, I think would work too. So now I should get some big string, and then I should be able to call to print at the end.
You just say
When
I'm missing what?
the line is very
Oh, thank you.
the else. But also, I have a question about that plus equals that you did.
Yes.
Because I use shovel, and I'm not sure how you were able to use plus equals.
Did plus equals not work for you? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, so you okay? So because you did a string. Got it. I used an array.
Okay.
So I shoveled it into the array as strings, and then I joined that array just using .join and interpolated it.
Cool. Yeah, that totally
so
works.
you can use plus equals to add strings into strings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the cool thing about Ruby is that everything is an object and everything is a method. So if you look at the string class should have plus defined on it. And we can see how plus works when called as a method, right? Because this is just a method call. So really what we're saying is to print dot plus, we're adding this stuff. So we're saying to print is equal to print like that. Yes.
Is that going to start index at 0?
Yes.
So would you have to also count that in a line, nobody will see the 0 person in line?
Yes, absolutely. So I forgot that. So we're going to take every index and just shift it by 1. So you can see how like the plus method works, right, on strings. And it basically just says it returns a new string containing the other string concatenated to the old string. I'm going to go back to my plus equals. It's clearer.
There should be a space in there somewhere too. Either before or after.
It is like right there with the
Yeah, I think I put the space
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Maybe wrong though.
But then when it shows the next person, there's gonna be a space missing between them.
Right.
So there should be part of that string that you're.
Oh,
interpolating
you're
into it.
saying there's a space. Yes, absolutely. So I need a space at the end here, a literal space.
Then you have to take into account the last person.
That's obnoxious.
That's why I put it at the front of it. Yeah.
Okay, so how could we handle this?
I used a method called rstrip that takes away the empty space at the end of the
Okay, so we have string. You said r strip.
rstrip.
So the cool thing about like doing these labs is like they force you to learn the APIs of the various like classes that come with Ruby, right? You're like, okay, how do I get rid of?
The one with the,
Okay, so returns a copy of string with trailing white space removed. So there's r strip, there's strip, there's l strip, r strip, and strip. So strip's going to strip white space from either side. I think that would probably work for us, right? Because there's no actual white space on the front end. So we could say strip like that. We could say r strip would also work. We could also strings are essentially arrays of characters, so you can use the indexing like bracket method, and we could say like we could get the length of it, and we could like chop off a character like manually.
That's good to know, very good to know. But you can actually, instead of putting a space after currently, you could just put that space in front of the index instead of at the end, and that'll be fine too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
Put
this?
the space there, and then just take it off the end of it, and you're good to go.
How does that work? But don't I? Oh yeah. So that's gonna create a space. Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay, so many different ways to solve this, right? We can change where the spaces are. We could use join on an array. We could manually chop off white space at the end. A bunch of different things, right? Cool. I think this is probably the cleanest. I like this. Let's see if this works. Cool. All right. So I think we passed that one. Okay. Now it says there's nobody in line. Should say the line is empty. And oh, so this should be just if else. I like to just do something like this. We'll say toPrint is an empty string. And then in my if block, I'll set toPrint. If it's empty to one thing, I'll set it to something else. In the other case, and then at the end, I can just call always puts toPrint. That should work. Nope, I blew something up. Missing an end here. Cool. All right, now I need now serving. So now serving, there are no people in line. I should say that the line is empty. So I have undefined method now serving. Simplest way to solve that is to define it. And now we can look at the tests and see what now serving is doing. So when there's no people in line, now serving says we should call puts with there is nobody waiting to be served. And it's going to pass in my my line, right? So now it's going to say that I have an argument error, right? 1 for 0. So let's take an argument. We're going to take in the current line. So again, we'll have if current line is empty, what are we going to do? We are going to say there's nobody waiting to be served. So we can set a variable again, call it toPrint. We'll start it there. Start it empty, right? If we meet our condition where there's nobody waiting to be served, and then should serve the first person in line and remove them from the queue. Okay, so this is like a little bit different. So now we expect in our else case, we're going to be currently serving somebody, right? So otherwise, toPrint is going to be equal to that. And we know that Logan is like hard coded, so we need to make that dynamic, and that should be like the person of note. So we need to remove them from the line. So we want to get the person from the front of the line, so we can shift. So we'll say person. We're going to grab it out of the front of the line, and then we can interpolate them here and say we are serving them. What else do we need to do? and then we expect the line to have less people. Okay, I think that should work if we call puts. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to shift somebody off of the front of the line. I'm going to create this like holder variable, which is an empty string. I'm going to say, is the line empty? If so, I'll set that holder variable to kind of my default. Otherwise, I'm going to reset it to, not reset it, otherwise I'm just going to set it to currently serving. I'm going to interpolate the person that I just popped off, and then I'm going to print. Let's see if that works. Cool. Other ways of doing now serving, does anybody else do it differently? Same way? I don't think there's that many ways to do this. It's pretty straightforward.
I kind of just cheated at the end, and I just manually put the numbers. So,
You put the numbers where?
so I just put, I saw they wanted their output to be, but the line is currently 1, 2, 3, so I just substituted their names for like my array and the index at which I would be my array index 0
For now serving or for the other one? For the take a number?
for the line for like the one we had trouble. Yeah,
For this one, take a number? Or for the line. Right. This stuff up here. Okay, you hard coded it because we don't have enough tests to make sure that you're doing it dynamically.
like in general, it's that terrible thing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, most of these tests are written just to kind of like guide you towards like what the goal is. And the goal is really always to make methods dynamic. Like you should never have anything that's hard coded. You should imagine what are the pieces that should be able to be changed, and they should be probably like in an array or variables that are coming into a method or something like that. A lot of these, when people have done that in the past, we'll just add a new test that makes sure that you can't do something like that. But there's definitely, there's hundreds of these that we've written over the years. So there's definitely some where like you can get away with hard coding stuff, but it's just not helpful for you. You don't really learn
Can I
anything.
see what you put for now serving?
Yeah.